2. Hi, I'm Jeremy, the Zoo Nerd. Today is International Seal Day, so I thought it was best that we talk about our friends, the seals, and their relatives. Today's also World Water Day, which may be an interesting challenge for us as we're expecting a lot of water to come from the sky here in Los Angeles any minute. It's supposed to rain today. So we may have some rain happening during this broadcast, and if so, we'll see how that goes. I hope you're all doing well. I hope you are staying healthy and safe and practicing social distancing. I am an advocate for being socially responsible during this time, and I encourage you to please follow the counsel and advice from our leaders. So on to today's Critter Chat. Today we are going to be talking about the seals and their family of animals. That family is called Pinnipeds. That's a big word. That means fin or feather-footed, and that's because in looking at fossils and bones, skeletons of a seal or a sea lion, their fin kind of looks like a feather. That's where that kind of came from. But in the family of pinnipeds, there's 3 main families inside that group of pinnipeds. And those are the seals, and then the second group is the eared seals, which consist of sea lions and fur seals. And then the third group is the walrus family, of which there are 2 subspecies of walrus. Seals are fascinating animals. They're an animal that I've enjoyed watching most of my life. I've worked as a volunteer helping take care of both seals and sea lions in a zoo setting, and worked a little bit as an educator at the aquarium talking about seals and sea lions. I've also had the privilege of seeing seals and sea lions out in the ocean here in California, and sometimes up on the beach. So it's a pretty fun animal to talk about, and a walrus is actually one of my top 5 favorite animals, so I enjoy learning about and talking about them as well. The seal family consists of 33 different species. That's a pretty big group, so there's a lot of variation in size and in kind of where they live. So the smallest of the seals are the Lake Baikal seals. Those actually live in a freshwater lake. They're kind of a real exception to most of the rest of them in that they live in freshwater. All the others live in and around saltwater. And they live in a lake that is far from the ocean in the middle of Russia, in Siberia, called Lake Baikal. They're the smallest of the seals, and they weigh about 100 pounds as a full-grown adult. Now, the largest of the seals, this actually was very intriguing to me as I learned this, because they're way bigger than I anticipated. The largest of the seals are the southern elephant seals. So they're the elephant seals that live in the southern hemisphere, particularly around South America and Antarctica. And they are enormous. They can be up to 8,000 pounds and up to 21 feet in length. That is a huge animal. We're talking that outweighs some adult elephants that I have known. So that is a very large animal indeed. But those are the southern elephant seals. So this whole group of animals called pinnipeds, they are in the group of animals that we call carnivores. That means they eat meat. So seals, sea lions, fur seals, walruses, they all eat meat of some sort. Now most of them, that's usually fish. There are some exceptions to that. There's a type of seal that can actually filter feed on krill down in Antarctica. There's a type of seal called a leopard seal that goes after things maybe bigger and a little more scary than fish. And that's called a leopard seal. They live in Antarctica as well, and they actually hunt penguins and sometimes other seals, which is pretty crazy. Leopard seals are also very large. Walruses, in addition to some fish, they mostly eat shellfish, things like clams, oysters, mussels, those kind of things. And they use those big bristly parts on their face to help find them in some of that dark water. So we're going to talk a little bit about each of the three different groups inside the Pinniped order. So first we'll start off with the walruses. They live in Arctic settings. So they live in polar regions up around the North Pole. So there's a group in the Atlantic Ocean, there's another group in the Pacific Ocean, and they are each a subspecies. That means they're pretty closely related, but there are some noticeable differences. Particularly the Pacific walrus, the males get the longer tusk. So if they have really long tusk, that's going to be a Pacific walrus. Also, if you're seeing them in the Pacific Ocean, it's a Pacific walrus. But walruses are pretty incredible. Both the males and the females have tusks. They can get to be quite large animals. They are very fun to watch. I'll try to find a good video to post on the Facebook group afterwards, or you can check them out on a fun website called explore.org. There's a live cam that they filmed some highlights from up of Walrus Beach. I believe it's up in Alaska, maybe in Canada, but some really good stuff about walruses. Next, we're going to talk about the eared seals. So that's ear, like this. There are a bunch of different ear seals, and they're kind of broken down into two subgroups called sea lions and fur seals. The fur seals get really long hair on kind of the front half of their body, and at one point they were hunted for their fur by people to use as coats and hats and other things like that. Fur seals are quite common in the southern hemisphere, so around the points of South Africa, Australia, New Zealand, and South America. There's also one species in the northern hemisphere up near Alaska called the northern fur seals. They're in Alaska, Canada, and parts of Russia, and maybe Japan. But the sea lions, they are a little further south ranging. So they're going to be, well, honestly, right here off our coast in California. I see them quite often when I'm at the beach, or if you go out on a boat in the ocean, you can usually find some sea lions. When I work at the aquarium, I sometimes see them in the harbor right behind the aquarium. But sea lions are given their name for that loud noise that they make. And you've probably heard them on TV, or maybe at the beach, or maybe a zoo or an aquarium, but they make that loud sound that's kind of like arr, 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 arr. And it's really kind of a funny noise that they make. But that loud sound that they make is actually how they got the name lions. When you hear it from far away, it kind of sounds more like a roar, and can honestly, people thought it was lions when they first heard sea lions make that sound. Commonly known as the California sea lion, but there are some other sea lions around. Again, Australia, New Zealand, and there's a bigger species of sea lion north of here called a stellar sea lion that gets really huge. Now, sea lions and fur seals, they have something in common, and that's that they have really big, long flippers. And those big, long flippers, they can move around. That's how they swim in the ocean. And that also gives them the ability to walk on the land. And so they can climb up onto rocks, climb out on the beach, hop up onto buoys out in the ocean, sometimes on docks and boats. But they have pretty good mobility on land because those big, strong front flippers give them a lot of an advantage. They also have visible ears on the outside of their head. That's why they're in the eared seal group. And generally speaking, they're kind of one color from the tip of their nose to the end of their back flippers. They're kind of one solid color throughout. Although the fur seals kind of look two-toned color because their fur on the front half looks a little bit darker. They can also be very vocal, as we talked about. But those are our eared seals, the seals and sea lions. Now the final group is something that they call true seals. And this is the biggest group species-wise. There's more of them than the other eared seals or walrus. And true seals include both the smallest members of the Pinniped family and the biggest. So those seals I talked about that live in Lake Baikal, those are a true seal. And also those giant elephant seals that I talked about that live down by Antarctica, they are also true seals. So true seals, they don't have an ear on the outside of their head. It's just kind of a smooth spot with a little slit. And on the inside, they have an ear that works just as well as their other cousins, and they have good hearing, but they don't have that ear on the outside. They also have much smaller front flippers, kind of more like this. And with that, they're not able to move around on land very well, so they have to kind of scoot on their belly, more like a worm or a caterpillar would, than up on their flippers like the seals and like the sea lions can do. They don't make very loud sounds, although I have seen some video footage of elephant seal males fighting for territories on the beach, and that can sometimes be a little more vocal. But in general, they don't make a lot of sounds. They're pretty quiet. One of our harbor seals that we have at the aquarium, I heard him make a sound the other day, and it sounded something like this. That's about it. Not very loud. You wouldn't be able to hear that from very far away. Commonly, those kind of seals, true seals, that we know most that are maybe common in like an aquarium or a zoo are usually harbor seals. That's a common species of seal found up and down both the eastern and western coasts of the United States. So if you're in the Atlantic Ocean or the Pacific Ocean, you can see harbor seals. I see them sometimes here in California. The true seals also include some of the most rare animals in the Pinniped family, and those are some very special seals that live in warm water places. Those are called monk seals, and there's a species that lives in the Mediterranean, so over kind of by like Greece and Italy. And also in Hawaii, there's a seal, and it's called the Hawaiian monk seal. And it's one of the most endangered of all seal species. Some really cool work is being done through some great organizations and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife to help protect the Hawaiian monk seals, and they are listed on the Endangered Species Act, which has given them a lot of hope too. But it's pretty interesting that they can live in warmer waters, whereas most seals and sea lions, and definitely the walrus, all live in colder places. Well, that's kind of what I have to share for you today about seals and sea lions. I'll be putting up some graphics and some photos, hopefully a video or two, on the Facebook page, so check that out on Facebook at Zoo Nerd, and we'll have some more information going up later today about them. Also, I'd like to hear from you guys. What animals do you want to hear about? What animals are interesting to you? Let me know in the comments on the video or on either the profiles on Facebook, Instagram, or on YouTube. I'm putting together my list, but I'd love to hear what you guys want to hear about and make something that would be that you'd enjoy. Now, since we are celebrating World Water Day today, I have been feeling a couple of drops of rain coming down on my head here. So we're going to end things today for our live critter chat, but I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you've had some fun and maybe learned some things. But we'll be back again tomorrow at 2:30 Pacific time. See you then.